Hello everyone, so for today we're going to talk about the Romantic movement and the Victorian age in English literature. So the reporters for today are Anne Kathleen Hernandez, Mara Cruz Lawas, and Danica Lucido. And the topics that we're going to discuss are the Romantic movement, the Victorian age, the famous poets and novelists during these times, and their literary works. So Romantic period of American literature took place from 1830 to 1870, and it emphasized nature, symbolism, transcendentalism, and individualism. Now, this is one of the misconceptions with regards to the word romantic. Maybe some of us will think that this is about romance novel only, or story of couple who shows deep affection with each other, right? But that is not what we're talking about in the American Romantic period. After the Revolutionary War, America was anxious to create their own identity, and this period produced fewer instructional texts but more stories, novels, and poetries. And the focus of the Romantic literature is nature, and William Wordsworth is one of those most famous novelists that marked the start of the Romantic period in literature. He's also famous for his lyrical ballads, and he's also considered as the major nature poet because each of his poems discusses about nature, and he even called himself a worshipper of nature because he held a firm faith that nature could enlighten the kind-heartedness and universal brotherhood of human being and only exist in harmony with the nature where man could get true happiness. And I think that's true because based on my own perception and feeling, I also feel happy and calm, relaxed when I'm witnessing the beauty of the nature, and it just gives me a peace of mind. And one of the most important concepts in Wordsworth is the idea that man and nature are inseparable, that man doesn't exist outside the natural world and he is part of it. And men learn how to love, feel happiness and beauty when they look at natural elements. And I think most of us are like that. This is one of his famous poem, Daffodils, and this poem is about nature, humanity, memory, and imagination. So the speaker is the symbol for humanity, and the daffodils are the symbol of nature. So in the poem, humanity is a part of nature, and humans having a strong bond with nature creates real and not synthetic human happiness. And I agree with that. And in the poem, we can observe that from the lines, it's like he's lonely, but when he thinks back to the daffodils dancing, when he thinks the beauty of the nature, he feels happy and amazed. And then here are his famous works: The Leech Gatherer or Leech Collector, The Rainbow, lines written in early spring, To the Cuckoo, The Solitary Reaper, The Prelude, The Exertion, Lucy Gray, We Are Seven, Michael, Ode on Limitation, Imitation of Immorality, Upon Westminster Bridge, Milton, Tintern Abbey, She Dwelt Among the Untrodden Ways. And the next famous poet during this time is Samuel Taylor Coleridge, and he is the founder of the Romantic movement in England, and he is also famous for his lyrical ballads, and he talks about imagination and fancy in his poem. So the narrative poem, The Rime of the Ancient Mariner, it it's more on, the theme is about sin and redemption. This narrative poem describes the ancient mariner's experience aboard a ship after he kills an albatross. That's why, as you can see at the pictures, there's an albatross. It is believed that the bird has brought joy and good fortune, and once the man thoughtlessly kills the albatross, all aboard are made to suffer. So there's this one man that killed the albatross, and all the members of the ship also suffered from what he did. And the other sailors, ang ginawa nila, they hang the albatross on the mariner's neck as punishment. So the main theme of the ballad is to respect every living thing and to treat it with kindness. These are his famous works, his famous and lyrical ballads, biography, literaria, table talk, Kubla Khan, and Christabel.
George Gordon Byron, generally known as Lord Byron, was a British poet and a prominent figure in the Romantic movement during the 19th century. He was born on January 22, 1788 and died on April 19, 1824. Byron is best known for his passionate and emotionally charged poetry, including works like Childe Harold's Pilgrimage and Don Juan. His writing often explored themes of love, nature, and the individual's struggle against societal norms. Byron's personal life was also marked by scandal and controversy, making him a fascinating and enigmatic figure in the literary world. Percy Bysshe Shelley was another important English Romantic poet who lived during the 19th century. He was born on August 4, 1792, and tragically died at the young age of 29 in a boating accident on July 8, 1822. Shelley's poetry is known for its radical themes and idealistic vision. Some of his famous works include To a Skylark and Ode to the West Wind. Shelley was a passionate advocate for social and political reform, and his writing often reflected his radical views. He was married to Mary Shelley, the author of Frankenstein, and the couple was part of the literary circle that included Lord Byron. Shelley's life and works continue to be influential in the world of literature and poetry.
John Keats. He is an English poet of the second generation of Romantic poets. He also devoted his short life to the perfection of a poetry. His poem is vivid imagery, great sense appeal, and an attempt to express a philosophy through classic legend. The poetry of Keats is characterized by sensual imagery, most notably in the series of odes. Today, his poems and letters are some of the most popular and analyzed in English literatures, were not generally well received by critics during his life. His reputation grew after his death to the extent by the end of the 19th century, and he had become one of the beloved of all English poets. And he has a significant influence on a diverse range of later poets and writers. Here are some of the poems of John Keats. First is Ode to Psyche. It is about the Greek embodiment of the soul and mind Psyche. Keats declares that he will be Psyche's priest and build a temple to her in his mind. Although this is probably the least admired of Keats' classic odes, though odes on the indolence would rival it. It is fine-tuned to poetic creativity and the power of the imagination. Ad on Melancholy is another one of the famous odes, and this time he addressed us, the readers, and telling us the best way to deal with the case of the blues rather than trying to shake it off or ignore it. He also says that we should allow ourselves to wallow in melancholy by dwelling on the transience of all things, including melancholy itself. And Keats argues that looking upon pleasurable things and reflecting that they will soon die will surprisingly cheer us up. It is like an injunction to live each day as if it were your last. Last one is Ode to Autumn. Ode to Autumn is probably the most famous poem about the season in all of the English literature. And Keats' The Autumn is also one of the finest autumn poems in the language. Jonathan Bate has a fine analysis of this poem in his book of eco-criticism, The Song of the Earth, which points up all of the contemporary allusions to early 19th century politics and history. And now, let's talk about Charles Lamb. He is an English poet, fiction writer, literary critic, and essayist of the English Romantic period. Charles Lamb was considered a critical member of the Lake Poets, but unlike Wordsworth and Coleridge, his poetry never achieved lasting fame. Eventually, Lamb redirected his energies away from verse to prose, and in the process, he became one of the most valuable and enduring essayists of the Romantic period. And Lamb is best known for two collections. First is Essays of Elia, second is Tales from Shakespeare. Essays of Elia. In this slide, it says that Essays of Elia consists of series of deeply autobiographical memoir and essays written from the pseudonymous perspective of Elia and originally published as a serial for London Magazine. Essays of Elia are acclaimed as some of the finest early examples of the essay form in English, as well as exemplary masterpiece of English prose. Lamb's writing style in Essays of Elia is characterized by its elegance, wit, and intimate tone. His essays are a blend of personal anecdotes, philosophical musings, and vivid description, often drawing from his own experiences. Through his writing, Lamb effortlessly transitioned from light-hearted humor to poignant introspection, captivating readers with his keen observations and engaging in storytelling. And now, let's talk about the Tales from Shakespeare. It says that it is a classic children's book by the British brother and sister writers Charles Lamb and Mary Lamb. The Lambs wrote Tales from Shakespeare to introduce young people not accustomed to dramatic form of writing to the famous plays by William Shakespeare, selecting 20 popular comedies and tragedies which they considered appropriate for children, and they simplified the plots and retold them in narrative form. They omitted any parts deemed inappropriate for young readers but preserved Shakespeare's original wording whenever possible. The Novel of Walter Scott. Kenilworth. Kenilworth is a captivating historical novel written by Walter Scott. It is set against the backdrop of Elizabethan England. Through Scott's masterful storytelling, the novel incorporates various literary devices such as vivid imagery, dramatic irony, and intricate characterization to transport readers to the world of political intrigue, forbidden love, and treacherous ambition. With its rich prose and skillful use of literary devices, Kenilworth immerses readers in a tale of passion, deception, and complexities of human nature. Next is The Abbot. The abbot played a vital role in the romantic rehabilitation of Mary Stuart, who had hitherto been portrayed in much Scottish historiography as a fanatical and manipulative would-be tyrant. Scott's treatment of the Reformation is characteristically even-handed. While his Protestant sympathies are never in doubt, he deplores the desecration of the border obelisk. He endows his Catholic characters with qualities of humor, imagination, playfulness, and exuberance that throw into relief the stiffness and self-interest of their Protestant rivals. The talisman. The talisman contains of the ingredients of a romantic adventure, faraway lands, love, mystery, chivalry, courage, and daring. Walter Scott weaves these ingredients together with his usual skill and brings the various subplots together in the final scenes. As is his custom, he makes history serve his own purposes by inventing characters and situations and blending them with real people and historical events. The result is a masterful combination of fact and fiction that makes it possible for readers to ignore and discrepancies and simply enjoy the well-told tale.
Matthew Lewis was an English writer and dramatist, best known for his contribution to Gothic fiction during the late 18th century. He was often called Monk Lewis due to the popularity of his novel The Monk. The Monk is a Gothic novel written by Matthew Lewis and published in 1796 when he was just 20 years old. It's one of the most sensational and controversial works of its time. The novel tells the story of Ambrosio, a devout monk who falls from grace, committing a series of increasingly heinous sins, including murder, rape, and a pact with the devil. The monk is known for its shocking and often explicit content, and it was both praised for its sensationalism and condemned for its immorality. It had a significant influence on the development of Gothic literature and remains a notable work in the genre. Percy Bysshe was another important English Romantic poet who lived during the 19th century. He was born on August 4, 1792, and tragically died at the young age of 29 in a boating accident on July 8, 1822. Shelley's poetry is known for its radical attempts and idealistic vision. Some of his famous works include To a Skylark and Ode to the West Wind. Shelley was a passionate advocate for social and political reform, and his writing often reflected his radical views. He was married to Mary Shelley, the author of Frankenstein, and the couple was part of the literary circle that included Lord Byron. Shelley's life and works continue to be influential in the world of literature and poetry.
Jane Austen is also a famous writer. She's also famous for this Pride and Prejudice, and also there's a movie adaptation of this book. And then let's now move on to the historical, social, and political events of the Victorian age. So Queen Victoria was on the throne, and he was the Empress of England during this time, the Victorian era, and the Victorian era was in full swing, and this was a period of relative peace and prosperity in Britain, and with it came advancements in technology and in the pace of life. So it's considered as the golden age of Britain. Also, this age is also the age of industrial revolution because this was a period of relative peace and prosperity, and there are advanced technology and fast-paced living of life, and the period saw the British Empire grow to become the first global industrial power, producing much of the world's coal, iron, steel, and textile. And the technology and scientific equipment were also rampant during this time, and this served as their means of communication, and they also used this as their weapons.
Side effects of Industrial Revolution. The Industrial Revolution, which began in the late 18th century and continued into the 19th century. The side effects of the Industrial Revolution first is the poverty. The Industrial Revolution led to the growth of factories and urbanization, drawing people from rural areas to cities in search of work. However, living conditions in these crowded industrial cities were often deplorable, with inadequate housing, sanitation, and healthcare. This resulted in widespread poverty and hardship for many workers and families. The next one is exploitation. Workers, including men, women, and children, often face harsh working conditions, long hours, and low wages in factories and mines. The lack of labor regulation and workers' rights during this period meant that they had little protection from exploitation and abuse. The third one is materialism. The Industrial Revolution accelerated the production of goods and the rise of consumer culture, while this led to increased access to products and conveniences. It also encouraged materialism, where the pursuit of possession and wealth becomes central to society. The last one is capitalism. It is a significant role in the development of capitalism, where private individuals or corporations owned and controlled the means of production. Capitalism brought economic growth and innovation. It also contributed to the inequality and social disparities.
A Christmas Carol was just one of several Christmas-themed stories written by Charles Dickens. The novella's full title is Christmas Carol, in prose, being a ghost story of Christmas. A Christmas Carol is one of Charles Dickens' most beloved and commonly adapted pieces. Classed as a novella due to its size, it is separated into five parts. The novel covers a broad range of themes, from what Christmas means to the wealth divide. Due to its popularity and accessibility, it is often taught in schools, especially in the UK, where it forms part of the GCSE syllabus. Next is The Old Curiosity Shop. It is one of the two novels. The other is Barnaby Rudge, which Dickens serialized in his weekly magazine called Master Humphrey's Club. The novel caused a sensation of the time because the protagonist, Nell, dies in the end, which was contrary to the public taste of the time, which favored happy endings. The ending sparked public demonstrations against the author and his decisions to kill off his character.
Another famous author during this time is Thomas Hardy, and he is an English novelist and poet, and he focused more on rural society, and this is one of his quotes, what that I like the most. The main object of religion is not to get a man into heaven, but to get heaven into him. So I agree that the purpose of religion is to get man into heaven, but first we need to get the heaven into ourselves. We need to experience heaven, and we need to let others experience heaven from us by doing great things, by doing good deeds, sharing positivity, and by that, if heaven is already into ourselves, then we can get ourselves or get the man into heaven. And this is one of his famous work, Far from the madding crowd, and this is a tragic comedy, and also Tess of the D'Urbervilles, Jude of the Obscure, The Return of the Native, Mayor of Casterbridge, and another famous author during this time is William Makepeace Thackeray, and his theme is more on plainer style and greater realism. And this Vanity Fair is one of his work that the people really like and until now. And also the Four Georges, the Virginians, the Newcomes.
Emily Bronte is best known for her novel Wuthering Heights, published in 1847 under the pseudonym Alice Bell. The novel is a Gothic tale set in the desolate moorlands of Yorkshire. Wuthering Heights tells the passionate and tumultuous love story of Heathcliff and Catherine Earnshaw. It delves into themes of revenge, social class, and the destructive power of love and obsession. Charlotte Bronte was one of the Bronte sisters and the author of Jane Eyre, which was published in 1847. The novel is Bildungsroman, or coming-of-age story that follows the life and experiences of its protagonist. Jane Eyre explores themes of class, morality, feminism, and individuality. It is known for its strong-willed and independent heroine, Jane, and her complex relation with the enigmatic Mr. Rochester.
Here are the two works of Robert Browning. First is The Lady of Shalott. It is a popular ballad that illustrates the life of a woman isolated in a tower, far from what she wants to live and experience. The poem was written when Robert and his poet wife Elizabeth lived in Italy. It describes Robert looking through the house, searching for his wife, but she eludes him. The search is symbolic and nightmarish, a metaphor for her poor health and his fears of losing her to early death. Second works of Robert Browning is Men and Women. It consists of 51 poems, all of which are monologues spoken by different narrators, some identified and some not. The first 50 take in a very diverse range of historical, religious, or European situations, with the 51st one word more, featuring Browning himself as narrator and dedicated to his wife. The title of collection came from a line in her sonnets from the Portuguese. Browning himself was very fond of the collection, referring to the poems as My 50 Men and Women, from the opening line in one word more. And today, Men and Women has been described as one of Victoria's England's most significant books. Aurora Leigh is an epic poem, verse novel by Elizabeth Barrett Browning. The poem is written in blank verse and encompasses 9 books, the woman's number, and the numbers of the Sibylline books. It is a first-person narration from the point of view of Aurora. It is another heroine, Marian Eyre, is an abused self-taught child of itinerant parents. The poem is a set of Florence, Malvern, London, and Paris.